So I thought I'd talk about what it's like to try to be a normal kid through the filter of Scientology's ethics, integrity, purpose, all those kind of influences that are so subtle that you don't really realize it, but yet you're embracing and embodying the whole thing. So, growing up with the idea of dynamics and exchange in Scientology, and we could talk about that at some point or describe it or define it, was how you looked at life and made decisions, or how you were taught to, right? So when I was, right before I was went and joined the Sea Org, and I'd already been recruited a few times and put on project prepares, and I was doing courses at the local missions, but also at the San Francisco org, because they offered bigger courses that the missions didn't offer. Most missions were like intro courses and whatnot, like direct to public kind of things, when the mission network was existing. So having done that, it's like you reach this crossroads of like, okay, I've done almost all the courses I can do at the mission level, and I'm starting to do courses at the org level. So for me in San Francisco, I had to take Bay Area Regional Transit, what they call BART, and you had to get up at a certain time to make it there by course time. So as a child, which I was at the time, 11, 12 years old, I'm getting on a train in Concord area, like Bay Area, and taking a BART train all the way into San Francisco, and then going, luckily the org was fairly close to the station, so it wasn't too bad. And that wasn't daunting. It wasn't like, oh my God, I'm a stranger in a strange land. It felt normal at the time, but when you look at it now and having kids and transitioning to that where you're a parent, it's sort of like, wow, that is borderline irresponsible, I think. Like, it feels like it is, because at 11, my kids, although capable, like, that's a lot to put on a kid in an effort to be like, don't fuck up, you have to be there on time for course. And so it was, it's like the estimation of effort, right? Like, you can challenge yourself at any age to do anything. Is that appropriate? Maybe not, with the way psychology is, defining developmental stages and what that is. It's a lot of responsibility and a lot of decision-making skills that maybe at that level or that age weren't fully developed or even nurtured up until that point, to be honest. Because Scientology, it doesn't nurture development, it corrosively persuades development. So it replaces a normal moral fabric with their fabric. And it feels similar, it feels close to what would be normal, but you add that control, you add that ethics, not integrity or morals. And that ethics is always present, which is the group putting in the morals or the integrity of the individual when they've deemed that it's not possible, or for you to do it, not possible for you to do it, kind of thing. So making decisions like that are living with exchange and the idea of conditions and dynamics. At a young age, you're challenged with keeping your exchange in and always getting your exchange in, which led to me trying to get a job early on, which, being homeschooled at the time and homeschooling myself where my dad was not present, it presented some challenges, like going to the school district and getting a work permit, and at 13 that was kind of unheard of. And even getting a company to hire you at the time, even though it was the 80s, it was like still rules and regulations were going in. You couldn't make, like, child labor laws were real. You couldn't, I remember I couldn't work for more than 4 hours a day, or 4.5 hours was max. And I think that was after a while. When I first started, I think it was just a couple hours that I was able to work. And so I was a door greeter, like a doorman. I took tickets at a movie theater. I don't remember what my wage was, but it was a way for me to pay for classes and a way for me to keep my exchange in my family unit. One of the weird things growing up is like the idea of love and the idea of you're not really that person's child. You're this immortal being in a body of a child. And so that family dynamic, it takes a strange turn growing up, or development, like during your developmental years, or at least for me it did. And that I'm speaking mostly, well, I'd say 99.9% from my experience and what I believe and what I've learned. I'm not trying to be any kind of moral adjudicator. I'm not trying to be any kind of therapy judge. I'm not trying to say follow me. I recognize we're all at different places on this ladder in our journey, and some of us choose to keep our eyes closed. Some of us choose to peek around the corner and look inside, and some of us choose to dive right in and hope we can swim and find a shore somewhere and shed that old skin and start a new journey, or a continued journey from the one that was maybe derailed since birth. And so I'm just here to kind of maybe make a landing place and be able to also communicate my journey and the struggle that is that. It's not this life's always greener, or grass is always greener on the other side. It's more, if you get tools and you start to live and you start to nurture, and you can nurture others, and you can see and help or shine lights in areas that people might be in the dark about, and let them shine their own light and let them burn bright to see their path. If I can help be a part of that, or if people can come in and help brighten or lighten my path when it gets dim or I get cloudy, I think that's what that peer system that most therapists talk about after long-term therapy is about. I think it's you can't just see a therapist forever. It's super important. I went to therapy for a long time, but even all the best therapists say that, hey, you need to find a peer group. You need to find people that understand and are willing to hold space, and that you're willing to hold space for. And honestly, when I hooked up with a lot of the second gens and a lot of the ex-Scientology people, that was fully my intention, was to be a support structure for each other in a loose, non-defined way based on where we came from. And that was me assuming that a lot of people were at a place that we could all do that. And even if they weren't, they would see that a lot of us are, and so they would naturally gravitate. And that was silly. That was silly of me to assume that, and it was silly and probably overwhelming for a lot of them to feel like they need to do that. So come as you are. A person in my family that had a lot of influence on me used to say, I love you, scars and all, warts and all. And they ended up disconnecting from me, but I like the sentiment. I like the idea of, like, I would rather
actually be that instead of barking it and speaking it and then not doing it. I'd rather just do it and not really speak it and be that change that I want to see. So anyways, that's all I wanted to say. I hope everybody has a great Thursday, and be well.